But we're happy to have Andy Vidak here tonight. Andy, as a senator in California and a conservative Republican senator in California, is a very rare breed. And we are so happy that he's up there fighting the good fight and doing the things that's, in my opinion, impossible for anybody that has the right mind and has the right, the vision for California and America. So without further ado, I'd like to invite Andy up, and good luck.
Well, thank you, Todd. Thank you very much. This is a wonderful facility, and thank you for opening this up so we can have these discussions. I miss the sheriff, and do you have the DA too?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm glad to be here. I'm honored to be here, and I want to introduce one of my representatives back here, Weston Anderson. But I just want to thank Todd and all his staff. 2 weeks ago, I was here working on my CCW and shot in the range, and this is an awesome, awesome facility. So it's great to be here. I was looking at that, and there was already been some comments, and we had some good comments before we even started here today. But how does Sacramento work, and how do we fix our state? Well, I didn't write that, but
I did.
Sacramento, in my opinion, doesn't work. I'm very proud to represent Kings, Tulare, Fresno, and Kern County. Last week I was down in Kern County. I got down there Monday, and I came back home to Armona on Friday. So I've tried to spend as much time in the district as I can. Try to take, tonight we'll take the full 2 hours. I'm not going to speak for 2 hours. Nobody wants to hear me talk, but we can definitely have some discussions, answer some questions, and if you don't, it doesn't sound like there's anybody shy in this place. But if you are a little shy, after it all is in, I'm not going to go anywhere. I'll just sit here and we can talk some more. So I'm really, really pleased to be here. Going back to your comments on the president, I think that first year he said something about the police acted stupidly.
That was the Boston case. That was the Boston police.
Yeah, and they ended up having a beer, and that was supposed to fix everything. But his first comment was the police acted stupidly, and they didn't. They did everything correctly as the news came out. But so up in Sacramento, we have those same types of folks there, and they outnumber us 2-1. When I got elected, they had the supermajority. And thanks to Kings County, Tulare County, Kern County, Fresno County, I was able to get to Sacramento in a 22-point district that was Dem. Just because I knew the district, I wasn't afraid to go talk to people, listen to them, mostly listen. And then I had to run again. So I had 2 elections in 2 years, and I got to go back. But I'll tell you what, when I got there, we were in trouble. The whole state was. I remember the whole state was in trouble. They could do anything they wanted. They could raise taxes, get rid of Prop 13, because they had the 2/3. They could do anything they wanted. And I got there, trying to figure out the place. Never held an elected office in my life. And I start hearing rumblings about, well, this guy's indicted. This guy's indicted. And pretty soon, we find out, yeah, we've got one of the senators there has been indicted for bribery. Another one's been indicted for lying to a grand jury and voter fraud. And then Uncle Leland shows up. And Uncle Leland was an anti-gun guy from San Francisco who ended up being convicted for selling, trying to sell, he thought he was selling shoulder-fired missile launchers to Muslims in the Philippines. Anyway, it wasn't true. He was dealing with the FBI. So he's in jail today. So that stopped the supermajority. So we were able to stop a few things. Today, we can still stop a few things. There are some things that are coming up, like cap and trade. Cap and trade is something that we might all think, wow, what was that? Well, that was a prop that Governor Schwarzenegger ended up championing and signing. And that is our hidden tax costs that we're all paying. We're paying 9-12 cents right now that we weren't paying before. We've got some of the highest fuel costs in the nation. And the money's not going to the roads. $500 million a year of cap and trade is going to a train that's going to go through your farm, ranch, neighborhood, and nobody's going to ride it. That train's going to end up they're going to run out of money. But right now we have an opportunity with this cap and trade. They had an auction a couple, 3 weeks ago. where they're selling the credits for cap and trade. What happened? They got 5% of what they thought they were going to get. You know why? Because Cal Chamber, Howard Jarvis, some other folks went and filed suit as soon as that law was passed. And they said that's an illegal tax. It's not a fee. And so that's in the courts. In the courts, you know, again, going back to some of our earlier discussions about Supreme Courts and these types of things, but the courts have still got to rule on that. We think it's a tax. And if that's true, then they're going to need to come back to the legislature. And if it is a tax, then they're going to need 2/3. Well, right now we happen to have 14 senators. That stops the 2/3. So as long as all 14 of us hang together, we got this thing licked. Now, they're not going to stop. Say cap and trade does end up, the courts say it is an illegal tax and it is not a fee. It's supposed to expire in 2020. Well, nobody will buy any credits. No cap and nobody's going to buy them, like they're already not. So that's really going to hurt the train, because the train doesn't have a bunch of money. They're not paying guys now. But we have to be very vigilant, and I wrote an op-ed 2 weeks ago calling out all my Republican Assembly members and Senate members not to make a selfish move because your political career is over, you're termed out, you're looking for an appointment. These types of things happen. There's so many politicians up there, and why this doesn't work, Sacramento doesn't work, because they've never had a job, let alone worked in the private sector. I'm not saying they signed both sides of a check or owned something. They haven't even worked in the private sector. You know? Otherwise, they wouldn't pass ridiculous laws like some of these scheduling laws that are going to affect servers and restaurants and this and that, where you have to give them 30 days. I mean, it's just ridiculous stuff. They have no idea that those days are actually important to the servers. We have servers come up into our offices and actually explain they don't want this. They like filling in for the extra shifts. They like the opportunity to cancel, to call into Applebee's or Chili's and say, hey, my baby's sick, can I not come in? Now we're going to make the employer. It's crazy. It's craziness stuff. They don't understand. They don't understand guns. Obviously, the most calls we got in the last month were calls from all over the state, all over. Many of you called our office, I'm sure. I love it when you guys call. There's some members, actually, that get upset. Don't they know I'm a Republican? Why are they calling me? Their staffs get mad. Or, you know, people don't want to work. Our staffs love it. We love writing down the name and say, well, Andy's a proud Second Amendment supporter. He can't wait to go deer and bear hunting next fall. We loved hearing those calls. But there's actually members that will always vote for you that actually get upset. They say, why aren't you calling those other people? How come you're not calling Kevin De Leon or calling the governor? And I'm sure a bunch of you did call the governor. And I'm sure some of you have probably called the pro tem, Kevin De Leon. But they ran those through us. We saw it in those bills in the Senate first. Most of them, there was about 11, 12 of them, and they were duplicates. And why were there duplicates? There was somebody in the Assembly and somebody in the Senate, both had identical bills. They did that because actually, we live in a pretty special place. In their districts, that plays. We're a big minority, believe me. That plays. They think that if they can do that during their election season, that makes them look good. That's why there were two of them. Because Ting in San Francisco was the same as Levine in up north, and they were Senator Hall down in Compton. They had the same bills. So it sounded like it was a bunch, and it was horrible. The only one, the governor, that we all voted for one, except for two people. Two people didn't vote for the one that was actually going to make, if you stole a gun, a felony, if it was under $950. In the Senate, 38 people voted for it, unless there was somebody absent. But there was two people that voted against it, one from San Francisco and one from Berkeley. No, Kevin, I think, voted for it. But the governor vetoed that bill because it was going to be in Gavin Newsom's bill. That language is already there, and he wanted to keep Gavin Newsom's bill that we're all going to get to vote for statewide. He wanted to keep that one alive because Kevin De Leon and Gavin Newsom, they don't get along. They're so powerful up there that they start fighting with each other, and that's kind of fun to watch. And we try to, slide over here and work with this guy and work with this guy a little bit. Because they do have a whole bunch of different coalitions. You know, there's some folks from San Francisco and Berkeley that there are no criminals. It was just bad luck, you know? But that's where they live, and that's what they honestly believe. Until they've had, you know, something stuck in their ribs or beat up out in the parking lot, they have no idea. But they live in different neighborhoods than we do. You know, they really do. Some of them actually do know what they're doing, and that's what's the frightening ones. The ones, you know, that follow and vote. There was one bill that ended up getting vetoed by the governor, and it was the one where, you know, if you had been to a doctor or a healthcare worker or somebody at a school, or somebody could actually go in and write a report, a complaint, and then you would be restricted from having a gun just off somebody. I mean, no due process. Now, the governor actually vetoed that, but they couldn't get the votes. It was on the floor. This is how this doesn't work. I think it was Senator, I don't know, drawing a blank. Anyway, she's from Santa Barbara, and she was presenting the bill. She couldn't get the votes. Need 21. All these take 21, and there's 26 of them, 14 of us. She only had 19, so they had to put it on call. Because there were certain people, and there are, you know, some of them would vote with us or vote against the bills, but they'd get enough to vote to get it over the 21 threshold. They'd take turns. People that are in an election, maybe their district's only 4 points or 5 points, they'd go ahead and make those votes. So they had to put it on call. So then we vote on 5, 6, 8, 10 other things. A couple hours go by while they're going over the Kevin De Leon and the other ones, going and talking to these members, Democrat senators, and saying, look, you got to vote for this. And they're like, no, it's just crazy. And eventually, they got their votes. Kevin De Leon said, no, this all has to pass as a package. So you have folks, just because of politics, that will vote just because they're afraid of their next election, because they have nothing else to go to. They're afraid they're not going to get their next appointment. They're just afraid. Hell, if I get threatened, I say, I get to go home? Really? Yeah? Great. So I always vote my district, and that's the most important thing to do. Got to meet the NRA guy. Not going to say anything bad about the NRA. I'm a member. I love the NRA. But in California, I've been up there for a while, and I hadn't seen them. Gone over to California. Some of these other folks were there. But they've got a new guy for the NRA. So anyway, I'm in my office watching an assembly hearing on one of these bills, Senator Hall's bill. And, of course, you know, we have the people who are for the bill. Senator Hall presents it. He has his witnesses. And then the NRA and California gun owners and, you know, rifle and pistol folks. So we have some people testify. And then I don't know if you saw the video. We can get the video for you. But then Senator Hall ended up, and then there was discussion and questions from the assembly members from the dais. And then Senator Hall went on a rip telling the NRA and everybody else that had testified that they needed to wash their filthy mouths, that a lot of the shootings were their faults. It was just absolutely ugly. And I'm sitting there in my office watching it on TV, and I was just like, holy, you know what? And I started yelling, and so my staff comes in, and I said, hey, this guy, and then Assemblyman from San Francisco called them murderers. So I immediately wrote a letter to the Ethics Committee of the Senate. And because actually the LA Times made the first comment, wow, look what Senator Hall is doing to the gun supporters. And so I wrote a letter asking the Senate Ethics to please review his behavior, as long as I didn't get into the Assemblyman because I was just dealing with Senate. And then we ended up getting it down in the LA Times. The letter ran in the LA Times. But what happened to our ethics? Our ethics meeting? No. Well, you know, he wasn't really talking to anybody on the dais, and he really wasn't talking to, no, he was talking, okay, first of all, he was. Second of all, he was talking to all my constituents that are pro-Second Amendment. It was absolutely disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. He's running for Congress right now in Compton. So ethics, you know, That's the only one where it's 50-50. All the other ones, it's like, 8-2 on the committees. So even when things come into committee, we don't even represent, we're basically 1/3, but we don't even get 1/3 on the committees at this point, okay? So again, it's not really working very well for us. So that was a 50-50 vote, and they decided not to do anything. They said, well, you already got your letter in the LA Times, isn't that enough? I said, well, I'm just looking at the ethics of the Senate, those types of things. Didn't work out. So they ran those through. We couldn't stop them. We've all voted. We all asked questions. If you're going to make a gun at home, you have to register it. And I said, well, I got up on the Senate floor and asked the senator. I said, well, how many criminals do you feel are going to fill this out and register? She's an attorney, and she went on and on and on and on, but never could answer that question. I think KMJ actually was using that as a bumper somewhere. I think, how many do you think are going to actually register? Because they don't work. It's not good. On the water side, up there at the state, the CVP East Side guys on Friant probably going to get 70% if the contractors don't take it. More of it. Poor West Side CVP is only getting 5%. They thought they were going to run out of water last weekend because they borrowed so much water they thought they were going to have to shut down, and that's just a disaster. But again, that's going to have to be a federal fix. The state guys, I think, it got 60%. But this water deal, we need more rain, but we also need people up there that understand how this works. But we need a federal fix. San Joaquin River settlement's just a disaster, and they think they have water, and then all of a sudden, because we don't pump, then the state contractors pull their water, and then they get us all fighting with each other, and that's just not that's not good for anybody. So again, we got to all try to stay together. We may have some differences here and there, but we got to stick together, because if we don't, it's going to get worse. As long as this governor's here and as long as they're in control, they're going to keep attacking our Second Amendment rights. They'll keep dreaming up new things that don't make sense, that will have loopholes in them. But again, they are going to continue to attack. Now, Gavin Newsom is not going to be any better, and he's like the front runner right now. He's not going to be any better. He doesn't like the train. That's about all I can say about him. But so on the Senate side, I'm going to talk about elections just real quick. On the Senate side, we actually, even in a presidential, we think we have 2 opportunities to pick up 2 seats. That doesn't happen on a presidential, especially in California. I remember when Danny Gilmore won on the Obama year, he was the only Republican that won in a Democrat district this side of the Mississippi. But we have 2 outstanding candidates down in Southern California. They're 8-point seats, which I would dream for an 8-point seat, so would Valadeo. They're 8-point seats, Los Angeles County. The big gun down there for us is Supervisor Mike Antonovich. He's represented 90% of that district for 27 years. Is he running out of work? That's a great question.
I know the guy. I used to live down there.
Well, he's a Republican, and he's going to vote way better than that person against him. And he's doing it for the state. We went down and asked him. He had no ambition to do this. And we thought, with the name ID you have in this district, we need another seat. Would you be willing to do this? And so he is one of them. The next one is also a retired deputy sheriff. He was a reserve sheriff for a while. His name is Steve Fazio. And Steve Fazio is running to replace Fran Pavley. Anybody know who Fran Pavley is? Fran Pavley was the great author of all our groundwater rules and regulations that are coming. Fran Pavley is the one trying to put the oil business out of work all in Kern County. That's her. Steve Fazio's opponent is Fran Pavley's chief of staff, who wrote all those bills. And of course, she voted against, she's anti-Second Amendment, anti-everything that you and I believe in. So Steve Fazio is another one. Now, Steve Fazio has great name ID down there because his parents have about, I don't know, 9, 10 dry cleaners down there, and they've got Fazio signs and stores all over the district. He's, like I said, he was law enforcement, and then he went back to the business because that was making him a little bit more money. We've got 2 great candidates down there, and then we have 2 that we have to continue to keep. There's also some other opportunities. We don't know what's going to happen this year. I mean, has anybody guessed right this year on anything? I see, originally, 4 years ago, I was a Perry guy, and I was going to be a Perry delegate. And then I was a Perry guy this time. And then Perry dropped out. So I picked Walker. A couple weeks later, Walker quits. All right. I'm going all in this time. So I ended up being a co-state chair for Marco Rubio. I actually did a little fundraiser with him up in Sacramento. Great guy. Then he quit. I mean, he went for a long time. So then we got Kasich and Cruz and Trump. So what did I do? Cruz people, no. Cruz people were calling, everybody's calling and saying, hey, we need your endorsement for Central Valley. Really like that. And I said, you know what? I don't want to wish that on anybody. I'm just going to stay out of this one right now. So then I let it go. Of course I voted. My guy won. So I can tell you right there, like it or not, I'll tell you what, I'm voting for Trump. And there is nobody, I mean, I know who that other gal, that other person,
You can't call her that.
who's official tonight, I know who she's going to surround herself with. Talking about the Second Amendment, talking about Supreme Court justices, that stuff is gone. Talk about building dams, let alone turning on pumps, that stuff's gone.
She wants to put the coal mine.
I mean, she's a radical environmentalist. I mean, gas and oil in Kern County, western Fresno County? No. So, I mean, that's pretty obvious to me. I don't know about y'all, but that's okay. I'm not going to dance around it.
We're in.
So anyway, with that, I'd rather answer questions, and you can answer about or ask about anything we've done, or I'll give you my honest opinion. I'm not going to dance around anything, and I'm glad to be here.
2 years ago or a year ago, the governor vetoed most of the same laws that he approved today, or 3 weeks ago. What was his change of heart? Why is it different today than it was a year ago when he vetoed the exact same? Any idea of why he has a change of heart, or is it just a lame duck thing? Or I don't understand why it's so different this cycle than last cycle.
He's a tough dude to get into his head. I mean, moonbeam for a reason. The only thing, I think they're actually worried. I think they needed something, because it does play well in some of those districts. It really does. When you've got the media, constantly bombarding and telling everybody that, it's because you all are carrying a gun or thinking about carrying a gun, that these are the problems. I think they're actually worried, because I think California is actually changing. It's taking a long time. And with that is the open primary. Now, I don't know that guy over there on the coast knew what he was doing, or the old Abel Maldonado, Lieutenant Governor. But when he put that thing together, I'm actually seeing that change. And we saw it change first in the Assembly because they have to run every 2 years. So in some of these districts, you end up with Dem on Dem now, or Republican on Republican. Well, I'm going to speak directly to the Senate. In the Senate, Kevin De Leon has not won a contested election since he's been the pro tem. Ben Allen beat Sandra Fluke. Well, great. But Ben Allen beat Sandra Fluke, and Ben Allen, believe me, is no conservative, but he is more conservative than she was. Over on the coast, we had a special election, and Steve Glazier beat Bonilla. And Steve Glazier was not happy when the unions all struck and the trains stopped. He was not happy with a lot of those things. He's more of a pro-business type guy, and he has voted decent on water. He can vote decent, but he was the more moderate. So we've actually stopped things, and I think they're actually seeing that. Because now the Cal Chamber and some of the oil companies and some of the big players, they'll start picking the more moderate person. And you're going to start seeing it probably in some Republican seats. Now in my seat, I don't think anybody's going to run to the right of me in my district. I mean, it's 20 points Dem. That's not going to happen. But you're going to start seeing in some of these hard Republican races that probably a moderate's going to end up winning, or could, if they have a good candidate. Because the Democrats are still there. They're going to vote. Just like there's Republicans that's still in San Francisco. There's Republicans in San Jose. There's Republicans in Santa Barbara. So going back to your question, I think some of this is changing. I think he believes in some of this, and I think he's actually worried about some of their elections. Because there are some that are being contested.
Self-preservation, basically.
Yeah. Anybody else?
What's a reform bill? John answered my question earlier. There was a vote back in 2011 in the Senate. It's a 28-8 split to exempt yourselves from the gun laws. You said you guys have already taken care of that it didn't survive, but somewhere in that reading, there was a reference to a reform bill. Sounds like it's an off-the-books type of vote, where it's not recorded.
I have no idea what you're talking about. I have seen the post on Facebook.
That was me.
And I try to go
Through the links?
and say, and ask everybody that posts. I mean, I don't have all day to stay on Facebook. But when I would see that 28-8 vote or whatever from Joe America or something.
I couldn't get it back to a bill.
No, there is no bill that I know of. And that's what I keep asking people.
What was the vote then?
For all I know, there's some guy in his basement that made the whole shit up. I don't know.
In that article,
I wasn't there in 2011.
Well, there you go. But it said there was something about I'm just asking for information.
Right.
A reform bill, but they didn't record the votes. It's like in the back room, hey, let's do this. Okay. Everybody piles out, and then that's what happens. And nobody knows what the hell's going on.
No.
And it sounded like that's where that stupid.
I've never heard of such a thing, and if they did have one, I wouldn't be included. If I wouldn't get invited to that meeting to go vote on it. They don't need me. So I don't know, but it wouldn't be law. I mean, you can't go out and vote in a parking lot and then come back and say that.
Until Moonbeam signs it.
No, I mean, it has to go through the process. It has to go through committees. Now, they break the process all the time. Last year at the end of session, the end of, I think we were there, August, early September, they ran bills. I had to go to committee. And they went through the whole frickin' process in one day. That's why there's another ballot initiative that you need to vote for. And I think we've killed it in Sacramento, the Dems alternative, that actually this stuff's going to have to be in print. And we can actually record the hearings. Imagine that, transparency.
The flow chart I saw has you already doing that. Just because you pass a law, how do I hold your feet to the fire to make sure you follow it?
Well, first of all, you need to be able to read it for a couple, 3 days.
That would be good.
That would help,
They
okay?
say it's supposed to be.
And then when we go to committee, it would people would change the way they speak if that could actually be used against them. It's against the frickin' law in the assembly for you to do that. And so the Dems tried to come up with their own transparency bill, after so many years, but yet it was only going to be restricted to one house. And so, we got it it's going to be on the ballot, and you need to vote for it because it's going to change California politics. Because then those folks are going to actually see what their members are doing because they really don't know. And in some of these districts, there might be only 5,000 to 6,000 people that vote. That's crazy. And they're some of the most powerful people up there. Yes, sir.
You touched on the train that's Governor Brown wants to put in earlier. And anyway, it seemed to me that most of the activity is around Fresno and here around Hanford. There's, the activity. I don't know what's going on down south. From what I understand, that Southern California is, they can't go through the mountain and they don't want to go around. And the people on the other side don't want to train because they're going to do what they're doing here, going through their properties and businesses. So that's a big hassle there. And then, of course, the money. But here, I went to a meeting out here at Kit Carson's school, and they had the trained people there, and they're all talking positive. But they're actually lying. They're saying one thing, and you go to another meeting, they say it a little differently. But they have to tear down all these houses to get the train go in that part of town. They don't know where the station's going to be, but I've heard them say at a city council meeting, there's not going to be a station there. But then all of a sudden, there is going to be a station there. And then there's the east-west railroad. They don't have that solved. They want the east-west to go under the train. They want them to pay for all that expense of going under the high-speed rails. And of course, I'm thinking that they're going to say, no, we're not going to do it. We're not going to pay for that. So they don't have that solved. Then there's the problem with the highway. They just built the highway, and that wasn't in the plans. So now they're going to have to go under it or over it. And the train doesn't want to go over, they want to stay level. So they want the state or the taxpayers to build, put an underpass there under the high-speed train track so that on 198. So it's all messed up. They don't have that solved. And they're trying to talk about Southern California and Northern California, and this 50-mile section is a mess as it is. And they're running out of money on that part. I say it'll never be built. Then there's the talk of hyperlink,
Hyperloop.
Vacuum seems to be a better option there. Maybe you know something about it that I don't know. But maybe you can comment on that a little bit.
Okay. Let's go back to the train station and the maintenance yard. Remember watching the old Little Rascals? They always had these cool wagons that all had all kinds of stuff on them, and they were all gathered up on them. Petey's running up around the side. They had a big old bamboo pole with a mule in the front and that carrot hanging there. Well, that's what the maintenance yard is and the train station. That carrot is leading that mule up and down this state. Ask the people up around Merced first. Kathleen Galgiani, Senator Galgiani, she's one of the authors of this thing. So that carrot goes down to Bakersfield. I kept telling people, right before they put the kibosh on Santa Clarita and going through the mountains, that maintenance hub was going to end up in Santa Clarita. That's going to be the next thing they said, because it was going to be here, and it was going to be here. And it's still just bouncing around, that carrot. And so they go to these local communities, and it's politics 101, right? Hey, you want jobs? We're going to bring you a maintenance facility. We're going to bring you a train station. We're going to build stuff. We're going to give you jobs. So, everybody gets all excited. And they get a little bit more support. And then they leave. But yeah, they can't explain anything. Yeah, there's a lot of things that isn't in their budget. They don't have a business. The business plan is ridiculous. That's why there's no private investment. There's plenty of people that are going to come in and say, hey, we'd love to build it, but we're not going to invest in this thing. It doesn't work anywhere else in the world. They're all subsidized. And in the law, it says it's not supposed to be subsidized. And I get to be on John and Ken, and I get to be on different radio shows, and I talk about the piñata. I say, this thing's a piñata, There's a whole bunch of people that are going to dive and duck and grab the candy, and the rest of us are going to get whacked by the stick. And that plays pretty good. The other thing I tell them is I take it to the basic government, and if I'm on the Little League board, And we all voted to spend $2,000 on the Major League Diamond. We all go home, we think we did a great job, and then I go spend 10. I'll probably get voted out, huh? Somebody's got to pay that bill. But that's exactly what these guys have done. It's not the same project that we all voted for, or we voted for as a state. And it didn't pass by a lot. But there's a lot of stuff in there that I still think it's not, no, a lot of things are gonna get knocked down. A lot of people are gonna be displaced. I do have a bill right now. Originally, it was supposed to be first right of refusal for anybody who lost property to the high-speed rail. Well, of course, since it doesn't work, but they watered it down to at least, if you get your property taken by the high-speed rail, that you will be notified when they have to sell it again. You have to be notified for 30 days, or within 30 days, before they can actually sell it. They can't go make a deal with somebody else. Doesn't say anything about price. That's not where I'm gonna get. I'm not gonna get there with these folks. But at least you'll be notified, because I do believe that's gonna happen. I still have to get it. I have to present these bills to the assembly when I get back. We start again on the 1st, and we'll see if the governor signs it or not. Everybody's voted for it. It's sailed through so far. I mean, there isn't really any opposition on notifying people. But you know, they're spending money that they don't have, and we just need to keep fighting and writing letters. And I'm doing everything I can up and down the state and across the country. People are listening, and it's, you know, there's a lot of articles being posted in Wall Street Journal and investors deals, and it's a joke in the rest of the country. I mean, there's a whole bunch of governors that said, no, we don't want that money. So. Yes, sir.
Can you address the difference in financing between the high-speed rail and Hyperloop? That'd be good.
First of all, Musk is doing it all himself with investors, private money. You know, the rest of us are paying for this other boondoggle, and it's, you know, going to be 10 times. It's not going to the speed. It's not going down existing corridors. I've talked to a lot of the big union folks that do doing all the work, and I said, why don't, you know, again, going back to the ballot initiative that California Water Alliance is trying to get on, which I've signed, and I hope you all have, is to, you know, put that money into the roads. This is stupid. Our roads are falling apart. The union guys, they know that buck's going to go a lot farther with them and their people on the roads than this thing that they're doing now. They don't care. But they're not going to come out and say that publicly. I have asked for two audits of the high-speed rail the last 2 years. And I go in to that committee, it's Senate and Assembly, and almost down party line, I get voted no audit. The audit would cost about $225,000. They're afraid to do it. Then I'd leave, walk out in the hallway, go down to Chops, go wherever, and I would see those same Assembly people and senators, not all of them, but I should say the majority. They'd say, Andy, keep going. We can't do it, though. We can't make that vote in a committee. Governor's still got to sign my bills. Leadership wants this. They're worried about their job. But there's a ton of them up there. Senator Roth has got an election this year. Last year, when I did the audit, he voted with me. This year, he voted no. Then he went to the LA Times and told him he hated the train and it needed to go away. But yet he would not even vote for the audit because the governor does not want to be embarrassed, because that audit will show that they are playing a shell game with that money. Yes, sir.
Senator Vidak, my name is Glenn Self. I just want to first say thank you for showing up this evening and taking our questions and speaking to us. I'm just your average blue-collar worker. I get everyone go to work from home every day. Never been involved in politics, and learned more about politics probably this election season than any other before, and I think a lot of people have. With that being said, I'm going to ask you, I have a couple of questions. And one of them is when our elected officials are elected into office, Governor, starting just at state level there, but Governor Brown, all the way down to even yourself, there's an oath of office, correct?
Yes, sir.
That oath of office is to uphold the Constitution. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
I just want to make sure I understand this correctly. When that oath of office is not upheld, how do we hold these politicians accountable? What can I do as an individual, us as individuals? I guess it's a two-part question I'm asking for you. We're here, I came here specifically tonight I agree with everything we're talking about tonight. It's good information. But the Second Amendment, the Second Amendment was not written so we could go hunting.
Nope.
It was not written so we could enjoy this facility and shoot paper. Okay? The Second Amendment is the only amendment that has the teeth to keep all the other amendments in place. What are you doing and what can we do to veto these laws that are unconstitutional and get them out? And to even up to I support recalling Governor Brown for violating his oath of office.
Everything you said is absolutely accurate. The problem is they outnumber us, first of all. I mean, I can't veto it. That's the governor's job, right? So you want to recall him, and I think there's some stuff out there on some recall. But again, it takes money, it takes time, and people have to care. Maybe in this election, like you said with your own words, this one you've learned more than anything, and you're seeing, especially in this state, your rights really being restricted or altogether leaving. Everything you said about the Second Amendment is absolutely correct. It wasn't to shoot paper or to hunt. Their definition of the Constitution, and you're seeing it tonight, if you go home and you taped last night or tonight and tomorrow, their definition of the Constitution is completely different, which is no matter what somebody has said, that one candidate, Mr. Trump, that says a lot of stuff, I know he's going to protect I've got a better chance with him than I do with the other candidate. And so, same with Supreme Court justices. How do you interpret the Constitution? Is it living and breathing, or are you supposed to be, reading it and executing and saying this is in, this is out, period? So, that's where I'm at. That's where I vote. I mean, I voted no on all these things, and yes on many, but on the good ones. And
I believe you did.
so,
I'm sorry, I believe you did, but I'm asking what can I do? What can you do? What can we do specifically? I mean, there's a petition, I guess, that's gonna be sent out from a gentleman down south, I can't remember his name, Brian, whatever. He's bringing this up to get signatures so we can get on a ballot to vote on it. I don't understand how we didn't get a chance to vote on it to begin with. And maybe that's just my ignorance on how politics work. We didn't get a vote on this and it was shoved down our throat.
correct.
So with that being said.
Your representatives voted for you.
Okay.
So, but the people that you voted for, you need to hold them responsible. And I think most of all of us probably here live in my district. So I represented you, at least most of this bunch. I can't speak for everyone here. There might be somebody here that disagrees, and that's okay. But you need to hold your folks accountable. And you need to double check and make sure that they voted right. And if they didn't, then you need to let them know. And then what you do with that is up to you. You either support another candidate, or you tell them he really screwed up or she really screwed up. You're very disappointed.
Just the fact you took the time to be here tonight, you have my vote.
But statewide, then, once you've done that, once you've covered your local folks, then you want to start playing a little bit more. I mean, sign this guy's petition. I've seen it on Facebook. I haven't read it, but I don't know if you can get it on yet. Deadline's coming up quick. But get involved as much as you can, and then you get your brothers, your sisters, your cousins, your friends, your neighbors. I mean, having a forum here at this place is great because, again, it brings in mostly like-minded type people, and we all get to bounce ideas. The other thing, going back to local politics, is your sheriff and your DA. You vote on them every time too. And we're very blessed. The 4 counties that I represent, Kern County with Youngblood, Tulare County with Boudreaux, Kings County with Robinson, and Fresno County with Mims, we've got some darn good constitutional sheriffs. Then our DAs, so important. Is the DA going to convict you or throw the book at you for your magazine that you didn't turn in, like LA didn't? You know, LA banned all these magazines last year. How many got turned in? Nothing.
Unenforceable.
Okay? Unenforceable. So, but your sheriff is the head of your law enforcement in the county. Same with your police chief, but your sheriff is number one. And then your DAs. You start electing some DAs that are going to start throwing the books at the wrong people, trying to make a name for themselves. That's trouble. So everything starts very, very local. Statewide in the Republican Party, we hold more county supervisors, more city councils than the Dems do. That's shocking to everyone here, probably. We took over the air board down there in Southern California. Now Kevin De Leon's trying to write a law that they can add 3 more, and they're appointed by the legislature. No, it's disgusting sick when they do stuff like that. But that's what he's doing. But again, going back to your sheriffs, your DAs, your police chiefs, and then, you know what? How many times do we all try to get out of jury duty? Again, going back to our Constitution, we should be there. We all try to get out of it. We all try to complain, I don't want to be there, da 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 da. But again, a jury can overturn an unjust law. You might want to go to jury duty. Might be you being judged by your peers. And again, please tell your friends and neighbors this, but it goes down to local, local, local. And then you can always send checks to, you know, different people, different candidates. You know, like I said, I've got two in Southern California that I'm trying to help and do the best I can for. But that's what you need to do, because, you know, if you don't get involved in politics, politics will get involved with you.
And you will like it.
No,
Thank you.
you bet.